This is Pokemon Flux, the Pokemon fan game that is gorgeous in every way. From new Fakemon to new gimmicks such as Flux moves, this game brings a little of everything you'd want in Pokemon, except being completed. Although, I guess modern Pokemon games are anything but completed. Anyways, this game comes from the developers of that infamous fan game that we don't name, since Nintendo will come like a flock of birds to cease and desist. And this game, when it's completed, might be the one that actually gets banned. But yeah, I'm gonna be trying this game out today, and this game will be broken up into 3 episodes until fully finished. Right now, only episode 1 has been released, and I don't think there's an official release date on episode 2 or 3. But there's a lot to uncover here regardless, so I thought why not. So we start off in this stadium where it looks like some trainers are going at it in an all-out battle. And I kid you not, this music had me dancing in my chair. We find out immediately that we're in the region of Altera, where champion Alistair, not to be confused with Alistair, is trying to hold his title. Seriously though, who created this music? And it looks like this is a double battle. Oh, this is gonna be a great game when it's finished. As you can see, we got some awesome Fakemon, and Alistair is going for one of those amazing Flux moves I was talking about to finish his opponent Bryant off. A razor sharp move for the finish to hold his champion spot, at least for now. It looks like we can play as any one of these 3, and each of them has their own little backstory, so while I do want to go with what seems like the coolest trainer, I'm gonna go with the girl. And we're thrown immediately into Warbler Park, talking to our 2 pals about that champion fight. We got Sky and we got Aster. We're just chit-chatting away like old pals do when all of a sudden someone screams for help. And it looks like these Pokemon that are referred to as Alter Pokemon want to attack this mother and child. Probably this game's version of nuclear Pokemon from Uranium. Of course, we're not trainers, so we can't help, but look who decided to show up. The champion himself, Alistair. And he gives us Pokemon to help fight these Alter Pokemon. Hey, whatever happened to ladies first, guys? If you played Pokemon Uranium, you'd notice these Pokemon we have are from that game. All amazing choices. From here we take on these rampant Pokemon alongside the champion. Imagine your first ever battle being with the most powerful trainer in the region. Alistair mentioned Alter Pokemon use Flux moves and have more HP than regular Pokemon. But that's no problem, as this man has a level 60 Deostrix, which used its Flux move to dissipate that Tanscure. To no one's surprise, Alistair lets us keep these Pokemon, and I'm assuming the one we get is based off the character we chose. And to be honest, we probably got the short end of the stick. Lunapup ain't bad, but I much prefer the other 2. I'll probably be eating my words later. From here we start our journey in our room, where I nicknamed my Lunapup Finn after my own dog, and Sky calls telling us to meet him at the lab. And this is awesome. My favorite feature ever of Pokemon is in this game, where the Pokemon just follow right behind you. Oh wow, the mirror works. I go downstairs and we find out we live with our grandpa, as mom and dad are in some other town. One of the cool little details about this game is diagonal movement. I've never seen a Pokemon game with this, at least not a mainline one that was like for the Game Boy. It's pretty neat. We also find out we're in Sparrow Town, and they just love making this game look cinematic. Now we might have Pokemon at our disposal, but that doesn't mean we can't get our starters, so we go see Dr. Reed, Mr. Fantastic himself. We have the option of choosing Moz, the Leaf Moth Pokemon, and I love how it gives us Pokedex entry for each one. Next up is Chicklet, and I love that name, but for me, I'm gonna go with Findolf, as I think it's my favorite out of the 3. A resilient Pokemon that thrives on both land and water, and to defend itself, it sprays a forceful water jet from the blowhole on its head, so we get free showers while on our journey. Or if we ever get thirsty, that works too. I named him Echo, and we're immediately thrown into a battle with Aster. And might I say, this animation is awesome. I'm gonna be throwing that word all around for this game. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We of course bested him with our Pokemon, and from here, Reed tells us we need to go to Altera HQ to register in the Pokemon League, and get our Flux bracers to use those fancy Flux moves. Oh, and apparently Reed is Aster's father, which I didn't even notice. Like I said, they all have their own backstories. It looks like our Lunapup and Findolf both have 3 perfect IV stats, so I'm assuming they're guaranteed those, which is cool. Oh man, I wish Pokemon just stayed in this style, or at least did some games like this still, because it is just beautiful. I love catching quests, and this game is no stranger to that. So we catch a Cavami in exchange for some Great Balls, and I just realized the Pokemon are in the overworld. Didn't think I need that in a 2D environment, but I guess I did. They look amazing. From here we destroy Sky in a double battle and headed to Condor City, where upon entering the city, we get a nice cinematic. Little things like this just make the game so much better. In this city, we're introduced to our flying taxi for the region, Albashell, which is the most beautiful Pokemon I think I've ever laid my eyes on. I'd totally steal this from you if I could. I did go on to register for the league, but just before that we find Alistair talking to Aquila, the league director, and he tells him he's not going to be participating in this year's championship. Which sucks, because I wanted to battle him. Not that I can, it's only episode 1. Anyways, Aquila ends up giving us our trainer cards as well as our Flux bracers, which like I said before, allows us to use Flux moves. Speaking of which, we can test out right now now against what looks like a Pikachu clone. A very, very unique Pikachu clone, Slugchew. I need one immediately. From here we go at each other's throats, fluxing away, and of course he destroys us with a water type Flux move, as well as the rest of my team, thanks to me missing Supersonic 4 times in a row. Alright, maybe I should have just tackled. But regardless, we don't wipe, and Aquila shows us these Flux kiosks, which is where we get new moves and power up existing Flux moves with Flux shards. Aquila gives us 200 Flux shards to spend, and we up our Flux power, and apparently defeating Alter Pokemon boosts our Bracer. He also mentions that we don't collect badges in this region, but instead trainers compete with one another to earn the league emblems. So I guess they're mini tournaments in these 3 cities for a chance to compete for the championship. Anyways, our next stop is Rooktown, but before that, we gotta go ahead to the Alba Academy. But before that, we check out the kiosk once more, and apparently Flux moves are separated between 2 things: an Alpha move and a Beta move. Alpha moves. Alpha moves give buffs and such at the start of the turn, while Beta moves are the ones that actually attack. It was kind of confusing at first, but hopefully we'll understand more when we use it in battle. So I snagged the Alpha move Sharp and the Beta move Flood to teach to Echo, and it looks like you can combine any Alpha move with any Beta move. So right now I have Bright Flood, which sucks because I just bought the move Flood. However, I can teach Lunapup Alpha Sharp, which will raise our attack, and attack with the Beta move Bash, if that makes any sense at all. So Solid Bash becomes Sharp Bash. Anyways, we head north through the Gold Coast and immediately find a regional Nidoran, who will be an Ice and Ground type when fully evolved. If it wasn't for Finn, I'd catch it. Good target practice for my Sharp Bash though, and upon defeating that little insignificant being, we pick up some Pecha Berries. Another neat feature. Now I usually don't catch rodents, but this thing will be a normal ghost type and it has the adaptability ability. Anyways, why not? I also ended up finding an Alter Pokemon which do show up in the overworld, and I thought this would be great to try out my Flux moves. But this is a double battle, and while normally I'd be at advantage, Flux moves go ahead and do damage to both opponents on the field, and since Navabri is super fast, it destroyed my entire team, and I couldn't escape. Shortly after, I decided to check out the online, and was surprised to see there's a working Wonder Trade system, although I think the same guy was Wonder Trading me every time. But there was also a mystery gift, which gave us a familiar Pokemon, Alten, from Pokemon Uranium, and this is its Altarian form, which makes this Pokemon way better than its Tandor counterpart. Look at how cute this thing is. Aerialate is crazy, especially since I have Double Edge, and yeah, that's his hidden ability. Oh my god, this Pokemon is powerful right now. I don't think I'm ever gonna get tired of these cutscenes into new towns and cities. It's just a nice touch. While in Alba, I met up with what seems to be our rival Gale, and by the beach I ended up finding that Slugchew I wanted just chilling. I caught it and named it Turbo, and I was now the happiest trainer in Altera. After this, I went to the school where we talked to Aster, and he tells us there's no dragon types in Altera at all, which is interesting. And Gale doesn't think we're worth his time, but if we beat him in the school tournament here, he'll hear us out on whatever we need to say, which is important because I need information. But before that, I evolved Alten into Aushouten, which is so much better than Tandor's version, like I said, and then I enrolled in the tournament and cleared every single trainer before Gale, and thanks to the combination of Turbo and Finn, since they both have moves that hit both opponents, this was easy. That is, if his Tanupi wasn't the ghost type Zoroa. A regional form, which is awesome, since ghost type Zoroa already exists, so it's fitting. It's kind of broken that I can just use 2 Flux moves in one battle though. Either way, once we claim our victory, Echo celebrates by evolving into Delfender, and I gotta admit, that's an awesome name. Sounds like some WWE fighter would have that name. And in this corner, we have the Delfender. It sounded a lot cooler in my head. And I gotta say, I love his little flex on his floaties. I stand corrected. They're tanks that store water, but that's not as fun as floaties. Like I was saying, we need information. We need to get to the woods north of town, but Altera Pokemon are in there and someone's blocking the gate. So since we beat Gale, he will now give us the time of day and tells us there's another way into the Alba Woods. But first he needs our help, and he literally says he's not thrilled to ask for our help, and he kind of hates us. Mind you, I haven't done jack shit to this loser. What drugs are you on? Anyways, he wants us to save his classmate who went to go befriend a Pokemon in the woods. But in order to do that, he needs the Flux move for Cut, and, well, I just happened to win it in the tournament I was just in. How inconvenient of me to be in town. So Gale tells us to meet him at the library. So as Sokka would say,
I'd like to spend my vacation at the library!
So this is funny. It needs to be nighttime in order to activate the next section of the game, and there's a wait feature where I can just skip to 8 PM. But I use this feature right in front of him, and he has the nerve to say what took us so long. Bro, I haven't left at this spot. I've been waiting. Anyways, we go into the woods through this secret door, and we use our new cut HM to start looking for this bozo. While searching, we ran into an altar Pokemon, which actually let me catch it upon defeating, so I did replace the one I had in my party, and right after, it looks like its mother was angry, ready to kill Gale's friend. And Gale is a W friend, just straight up chucks a stick at this overgrown possum. So we fight Grimpass, and this thing was strong. I instantly went for a Nuzzle and start electrowebbing, and even at -1, this thing was one-shotting Gale's team. Since Echo was evolved, I used Bright Flood and was surprised at how little damage that move did. Now I forgot this thing was a ghost type, but in that case, why was Gale not using a dark type move the whole time? And he calls me the idiot. From here we saved Leo, and he says he might be unlucky as these things happen to him all the time. And Gale just says, no, you're just an idiot. As much as I don't want to like Gale, he's pretty funny. Anyways, from there we get out of the woods, and their principal expelled them, but once he figured out that we were the one that defeated the altar Pokemon, all was well, and nobody was expelled. Since Gale said he'd quit if he got to stay and Leo was expelled. What a friend. Now, stop being mean to me. From here we can go into Alba Woods without restriction, and don't be fooled, this is not a shiny Shroomish, but a regional variant. It is a grass and poison type, so I caught it, named it Mush, and traveled through the forest until running into Aster, who challenges us to a double battle, but my team is just so much better than his, and from there we head into Alba Rook Cave. In here we have to help this woman by lighting up the cave as we go and get Flux shards from these walls, which is neat. Alistair was up ahead and explained Flux energy and Flux crystals to us, but he also battled us, after I mentioned earlier that we probably wouldn't fight him. And trust me, when I say Echo had no problem with him thanks to Bright Flood, I mean it. Also, this seems to be the prevo to the taxi in this game. After this, he gave us Rock Smash, so we were able to break these rocks for this woman, but we weren't out just yet. From here we went to the basement where it was pitch black and hard to see, and eventually some worker bumped into me, shouting ghosts. But there were no ghosts, it was just a regional form of Wishy-Washy, which is awesome. It turns into like a squid. Luckily I was able to set up a Tailwind with Sky in order for Slugju to outspeed and nuzzle away, and eventually the beast went down, allowing us to finally get out of this cave and into Rooktown. This is where our first tournament is. The boys and I went to go check out some commotion going on dead smack in the center of town, and apparently the power's been out for days. And this happens to be Ontaries Altair's son. Or in other words, he's the nephew of the guy that gave us the Flux Bracer. Him and Nula were arguing about the power, so of course we gotta find out what's going on. So we head west of Rook with the guys, and there's a roadblock on the street. We decide we need to sneak through the gate, and Sky says he's been waiting to be a distraction. Let us through! I wouldn't call that a distraction, but hey, whatever works. Now's my chance. Leadlight is a super cool Pokemon, although I'm biased because Electric type is my favorite typing. But just look at this evolution. Oh man, never mind. This is the final evolution. They even light the area around. Anyways, we snuck past everything only to end up fighting Xander, who has a regional Meowth. How many regional Meowths are we gonna get? Anyways, he had some cool Pokemon, but once he was defeated, he tells us the truth. The power plant has been overrun by Altar Pokemon. Surprise, surprise. So now we gotta get to the back and stop them. I chose Sky to come with me solely because he's just cooler than Aster. But clearly this comes with some downsides. He's definitely a whole lot dumber than Aster. I wonder if I had brought Aster with me, if he would have ran into the electrical fencing. Probably not. Man, the little things in this game. If we get zapped by the fence, our entire team loses a bit of health from it. Speaking of which, when I turned off all the electrical fences, an Altar Pokemon showed up and my whole team was weak. The Altar Pokemon was Insulatex and it took some time, but eventually it did go down to a burn. After this, it dropped one of the keys to get to the generator room, as well as the code 1495 to get to the next section of the building. From here, I switched something on, and usually I'm not one to confront an Altar Pokemon, but I just couldn't help myself to this awesome looking Carmelary, a bug and electric type. Honestly, screwed Leadlight. This Pokemon has a brand new and signature ability, Power Thief. If any of us get any type of debuffs, he copies the debuff, but instead of it being a debuff, it's actually a buff. So if my special attack gets lowered, his gets raised, and it gets raised by however many stages ours went down. Insane. And it made catching this thing extremely difficult, but thankfully Mush got a poison off. This was huge, until I ended up KOing it. I swear I caught one before, as soon as I defeated it, but maybe that was for something else? Anyways, with all 3 keys, we go to the generator room, where we're ambushed by 3 Altar Pokemon. Of course, we take on the scariest one, that being... I'm sorry, what? Negawatt here is Leadlight's final evolution, and it's just sick. I immediately use my Flux move to up my attack, and it does super effective damage as it is a Steel type, and my Flux move is Fighting type. From there, a couple of Bulldozers did the trick since Finn is immune to his Electric type moves. He wasn't so tough. And after this battle, Mush evolved into Breloom. He's so edgy. With all of this defeated, power will be restored to Rooktown, and we can finally take on our first League's tournament. At least we would have if this little twerp didn't tell his guards to sees us. Get your hands off me. He doesn't want anyone to know what happened here, as Alterra Corp's reputation will be ruined. Kid, why do you care? You're a literal child. Unfortunately, we have to agree that we won't say a word or this kid's gonna crush our dreams, since Alterra Corp controls the Alterra Pokemon League as well. They control pretty much everything in Alterra. Ha! I knew Daddy would come running to save the day. You've done a terrible job raising this little runt. Ground him. Ontari saw the security footage and saw what we did here today, so he lets us go and hopefully this kid gets punished. From here, I waited until nighttime to catch one of those Carmelaries, and guys, this took a million years. These things are not easy to catch, whether it was me killing them, the Sandstorm killing them, or them just flat out not getting in their Pokeballs. They were not becoming mine. And on top of that, it had to be the right ability, as it has 2 abilities, not just Power Thief. After like 10 of these guys, that's not an exaggeration, we finally got our Carm, and it indeed had the right ability. That was annoying. You know, I'm realizing Lunapup nor Pucholet have evolved, and it's because one, Lunapup requires a Moonstone to evolve, and Pucholet needs to die to a Rodeo to evolve. It's odd, but sure, why not? So first, I went to go buy a Moonstone in Condor's department store. I didn't know if they had them, but they do. And this is way different than I remember. Haraloon looks way better here than he did in Uranium. In Uranium, he looks kind of gimmicky. And by making Fear die to Rodeo, we get Grimpass. As much as you are ugly, you sure are cute. Oddly enough, I'm pretty sure I saw a possum today while driving. Either that or it was a giant rat. Of course, Dr. Reed gives us a Moonstone directly after I spent my hard-working cash on one. Just my luck. Anyways, from here, I did some last-minute preparations to win our first league tournament, such as teach Flux moves to any Pokemon who didn't have them, and reteach the moves. I taught Sky Charm for a specific reason that I can hopefully use. But yeah, in the league, we have to defeat 4 trainers, and after we defeat them, we have to defeat what they call the boss. So I entered, and the crowd was going wild. So many trainers patiently waiting for the chance to win this thing. It looks like we get to choose where we go, so I just went right and picked Leo to fight first. He has a Shoutin and Emberge. So anyways, here's my strat that I thought was going to work. Since Carm has Power Thief, I was just going to Charm to lower someone's attack, and this would in theory boost Carm's attack by 2 stages, which I did against Theo, but this would only work since my Flux move is physical. Other than that, Carm only has special type moves. Oops. But hey, I knocked out his first 2 Pokemon on turn 1 of the fight. Chemical is adorable. I'm realizing now this is a regional variant of Chemical in Pokemon Uranium. Now unfortunately Carm did go down, but for the most part, that was it for that fight. And with that, we get a victory star. Only 3 more to go. Next up was Gale, since I just want to ruin his day again, and again, I did the exact same thing, but to be honest, I don't see Power Thief activating, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. Well, it definitely worked with Electro Web, so maybe it only works if Carm himself inflicts the stat reduce? I'm not too sure. Overall, it wasn't a tough fight either. Aster was a little bit more difficult, but Finn is so strong and has the type matchup against his Villucard. And my own Grimpass has Sucker Punch for his, and Shadow Sneak is super effective against his starter, since it's part Psychic type. Now, the unfortunate thing about Sky is Gerbolta has a move that burns, and this burned Finn, which is bad since I don't have the Guts ability on him, but instead Mold Breaker. Oddly enough, High Horsepower still KO'd the rat in 1 shot, and in no time, both his starters were up. That thing is so cool. The good news is I can heal Carm with Parabolic Charge, and it doesn't affect Finn, and Finn also just 1-shots Burnichus with High Horsepower as well, as it's not part Flying type. This thing is a demon. Maybe he does secretly have Guts. And finally, a Sharp Toxin from Mush destroys his Serentide. With all 4 victory stars obtained, we get to see who this boss is, and it is none other than Nula. And off the bat, she leads these 2 monsters. Daikungus, who has Intimidate and is a grass fighting type, but our special attackers will do, and Tyrannibal, a dark bug type. Now immediately Nula's gonna use her Flux moves, so I flip turn into Sky and mush Zen Headbutts, which just happens to be my only physical move on him. But it's okay, as Sky has Razor Sharp Windstorm, and as you know, Flux moves hit both opponents on the field, so this mystery gift really was a gift, as both of these guys die in 1 shot to that move. What a legend. From here we get to see a regional Arbok and Go-Goat, both of which are weak to Sky since Arbok is a pure fighting type now. This is the perfect matchup for us, as Arbok dies to Double Edge, which is a flying type move thanks to Aerialate, and Venoshock can chip down Go-Goat. Then on the last turn, another Double Edge finishes the battle, winning us our very first tournament league. My team is awesome. With that, we get our first victory emblem. Eventually some time passes after this, and Aster and Sky both get their victory emblems as well. The other 2 arenas are in Corvo City and Cardinal City, but those are going to be in the future episodes. episodes. For now, we get an Altair invitation from Achille Altair himself. So we head back to Condor City to the League HQ, and of course we're wondering what these brothers want from us. Upstairs we meet Andromeda Altair, who wants us to see this potential his brother is talking about, so he battles us. Unexpected, but I'm always looking for a challenge. Salmosault is very unique, and this guy wasn't playing around, knocking out Finn on my flip turn into a Flux move. Thankfully Grimpaws has all priority moves, and I take it back. Salamancer is the one that's unique. Look at this thing. I figured it was a psychic type, so a couple of Shadow Sneaks and that was out as well. Nita Regina was out next, and this is a ground and ice type. Karm has Giga Drain, so that wasn't an issue, and we end up showing him who we truly are. He calls me a rare specimen indeed. Thanks? With that, they explain to us that they've been keeping an eye on us ever since Alistair endorsed us, so they want to sponsor us, but since Altair Corp runs the league, it could be considered favoritism, so they're going to do it in secret, anonymously. I don't know, man. Seems fishy. But basically, Altera is in danger thanks to these Alter attacks. We find out Aster was orphaned from an Alter attack, and we also are told that Altair Corp is working on Project Excalibur to stop these Alter Pokemon from happening ever again. Since we're new trainers and nobody knows about us, they want us to carry out their special missions for them, and this way the project would be kept in secret. Antares doesn't really agree too much with this plan, as we're just children. But I guess he hasn't played a Pokemon game ever. This is just the norm, bro. With that, they give us some hush money and send us on our way, and that's it. That is episode 1 of Pokemon Flux. This fan game is awesome, like I've been saying this whole time. I love the design of the region, the little details, and all the Fakemon this game has to offer. The story and the Flux moves are dope as well, and I can't wait to play this game when it's fully released. A Nuzlocke would be crazy with all those Flux moves. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about it and what Fakemon was your favorite. Until next time.